I raised my wife's kids since they were toddlers. Their real dad was never around. Years later, he suddenly showed up, and just like that, they forgot who truly stood by them. Now they're facing the consequences, and I refuse to bail them out. Hello Reddit I plus here. My name is Leonard. I'm 52 years old, and for nearly 2 decades, I played a role I was never asked to audition for, but I gave it everything I had anyway. When I met Clara, she was a single mother with 2 toddlers, Noah and Ava. She told me their father had walked out when Ava was 6 months old. No goodbye, no child support, no birthdays, just gone. At the time, I didn't think twice. I was 31, had a stable job as a mechanic, owned my own little place on the edge of town, and I was ready to build something real. And even though the kids weren't mine, they eventually became my everything. I married Clara 2 years into our relationship. By then, the kids had already started calling me Dad. Ava used to crawl into my lap and fall asleep on my chest after daycare. Noah followed me everywhere, even when I mowed the lawn. He'd push his toy mower right behind me. I still remember tucking them into bed, running to school plays, being there for doctor appointments, scraped knees, breakups, graduations, you name it. I wasn't perfect, but I was there, always. I adopted them legally when they were 10 and 12. Their biological dad, Jeremy, never contested it. We couldn't even find him. I figured, good riddance. A ghost doesn't get to haunt the living. Fast forward, life wasn't always easy. Clara and I had our issues, especially financially. She stopped working around the time Ava got into high school, citing mental health reasons. I respected that, but it meant I had to work longer hours at the shop. Still, I managed. I provided. I didn't complain, not even when Clara's affection started to dry up and her phone started becoming more important than our dinner table. Then, about 5 years ago, something shifted. Noah, then 20, started pulling away. Ava, 18, became distant. I chalked it up to teenage independence. I thought maybe they were just figuring out who they were. I kept telling myself, they'll come around. They always do. What I didn't realize was that Clara had reconnected with Jeremy. Apparently, he had resurfaced out of nowhere and sent her a message on Facebook, fresh out of rehab, trying to turn his life around. I didn't find out until almost a year later, when I came home early from work and overheard them talking on the phone. I wasn't even angry at first. I just felt gut-punched. She told me she was just being supportive, but when I asked why she hid it from me, she turned it around, said I was being insecure and paranoid. A month later, Noah moved in with him. Jeremy, the man who never showed up to one birthday, was suddenly trying. He bought Noah a used car, took him to some ball games, and somehow that erased 2 decades of me being there. Ava followed a year later, started calling him Dad on her social media posts. That one stung, like a blade right to the gut. I raised her since she was in diapers, taught her how to ride a bike, stayed up all night when she had the flu. But now, I was just Leonard. Then Clara hit me with the final blow. She wanted a trial separation, said we'd grown apart, that maybe we'd rushed into marriage. 20 years later, 20, she moved in with a friend, and just like that, I was alone in the house I'd built for them. The divorce came shortly after. She didn't fight for much. She didn't have to. She got the support of the kids. I kept the house. Alone. Fast forward 2 years. I hadn't heard from any of them since the court finalized everything. I buried myself in work, started taking better care of my health, traveled a little, even started dating again, quietly. Then I got a call one night, Noah. I stared at the screen in disbelief. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. He was panicked, said he needed help, money. Apparently, Jeremy had convinced both him and Ava to invest in some surefire crypto project. It was a scam. Jeremy disappeared. Again. They lost nearly everything they had. Ava had dropped out of college to go all in. Clara had co-signed on a loan. Now, debt collectors were knocking, and they were looking to me, to fix it. I asked him one question. Did he ever tuck you in after a nightmare? Noah paused. What? Did he ever sit through a parent-teacher meeting where they called you disruptive but brilliant? No. Did he ever sleep in the ER chair all night when Ava had that asthma scare? Silence. I did all that. Me. And you threw me out like trash the second he came back with a fake smile and empty promises. So I won't be bailing anyone out. I was your father when it mattered. But now I'm done. I hung up. It's been a year since that call. They haven't tried again. Not once. Word got around town. Jeremy skipped out on more than just them. Clara lost her car. Ava's working retail to pay off her debt. Noah moved back in with Clara. They're barely scraping by. And me? I'm doing okay. Sometimes I still think about them. I'll see a father pushing a stroller at the park and feel that sting of memory. But I don't regret walking away, because you can't save people who choose to forget who truly stood by them. I raised those kids with all the love I had. I didn't need blood to be their father, but it turns out, blood was all it took for them to forget me. And now, they're just learning what it feels like to be left behind, just like he did to them. And just like they did to me. But this time, few months after that call with Noah, I got another knock on my door. It was Ava. She stood there with her arms crossed, thinner than I remembered, her eyes tired. Not the bright, sharp young woman who once came running to me when she won her middle school writing contest. No makeup, no fake confidence, just a bruised, hollow version of who she used to be. "Can we talk?" she asked quietly. I didn't say anything, just stepped aside and let her in. She walked into the living room like it was a museum, like she was afraid to touch anything. Everything was just the same. Pictures still hung on the walls, even the one of her first day of kindergarten. She looked at it like she'd seen a ghost. "I miss this place," she said, barely above a whisper. I stayed quiet. She sat down on the edge of the couch, hands shaking. Then, without warning, she started to cry. "He said he was going to take care of us," she said through the tears, "that he'd changed. He told us you never loved us, that you just stayed out of obligation." I believed him, Leonard. God, I believed every word. It took everything in me to not break down right there. "I was angry," she continued. "At Mom. At you. At myself. I thought maybe if I gave him a chance, I'd finally understand why he left. Why he came back. But he never changed. He just wore a new mask. He ran off again, didn't he?" I asked. She nodded. "Left us with nothing. Took what was left of the loan money and vanished. Noah had to sell his car. Mom's drinking again. And me? I sleep on a couch that isn't even mine." She wiped her eyes and looked up at me. "I don't deserve anything from you, Leonard. I know that. I know what I did. But I need you to know something." Her voice cracked. "You were the only real father I ever had. I just didn't realize it until it was too late." And right there, I realized something too. I wasn't angry anymore. Hurt? Yes. Betrayed? Absolutely. But somewhere under all that, I still cared. Not in the way I used to, unconditionally, all forgiving, but in the way a man does when he knows he gave his best, and part of him still wants them to be okay. I didn't say much that day. I told her I appreciated her honesty, but I wasn't ready to jump back into their mess. "I'm not here for money," she said as she stood to leave. I needed to say it, before I couldn't anymore. She walked to the door, then turned one last time. "If you ever want to talk or just sit somewhere quiet, I'll be around. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm just hoping, someday, maybe you'll believe I meant what I said." Then she left. Epilogue. 2 years later. Life moved on. Ava eventually went back to school. She got a part-time job at a local library, started living in a shared apartment. She still sends letters, real ones on paper, once every few months. No asks, just updates. Gratitude. Noah? Still distant? Still angry? I don't know if he'll ever come around. Clara. I heard she filed for bankruptcy. She never reached out. I don't think she ever will. As for me, I rebuilt. I met someone new, not rushing it, but for the first time in years, I laugh again. The house feels warm again. Sometimes, I look at the photos on the wall and think about taking them down, but I don't, because they're not just reminders of pain. They're reminders of who I chose to be. Even when no one else did. I wasn't their father by blood, but I was their father when it mattered. And in the end, that's enough for me.